Hi, my name is Carlos, and I'm a suicide attempt survival.
What led you to attempt to take your own life from the beginning?
Since I remember, I probably was like 12 years old. I've never been diagnosed properly with depression or anything. In the country where I come from, this is not a very important issue. So they usually deal with this stuff the old fashioned way. When I was a kid, I remember that I was kind of in love with this little girl. I was 12 years old, and for some reason, I was really passionate about her. I felt like she was probably the girl I wanted to spend my life with. I got a really bad rejection from her, humiliation, and after that, bullying. And since then, my dealing with relationships was kind of disordered or distorted. And around my 20 years, I had my first formal dating relationship, which ended up with a heartbroken. And that's all leading through this moment or to this moment. I remember that before going to the psychiatrist and everything, that was what just triggered my sadness to a point that I just no longer wanted to leave anymore. By that time, I've gone through this process for a very long time. And by that time, I remember that I felt like I was bothering everyone with my sadness, or I was just bringing down everyone by being in their presence. And I really felt like I was a total burden to whoever came close to me. And one day, a friend of mine just came to me and he said that I was just bumming his life. I was just he no longer wanted to be friends with me because I didn't know how to deal with my stuff, and he was tired of hearing the same story over and over again. And then I tried to reach out to my dad at that point, but my mom and dad are split. So they just separated when I was really young. And I remember that I tried to reach out to dad, and dad wasn't available at the moment. I wanted dad. I didn't live with my dad, but I wanted dad because I thought at the moment that he would understand more than my mom, being a man just like me. So I tried to reach out to him, and he wasn't available for over 2 weeks. I was trying to reach out to him every single day, and he wasn't available. I wanted to talk to him. Then I talked to my mom, and she was just working 24/7. And when I told her what was happening to me, I felt like she didn't give the importance to the topic that I was just expressing to her, that everything that was happening to me. For me, at that moment, felt like my world collapsed and that I was just not important to anyone. And that's the first time that I attempted to commit suicide. Just for the record, I've attempted to commit suicide 3 times. I've considered it for more than 3 times. And I've learned through my life just to identify the little things that might lead to considering it again. And the red flags, I would call them, little red flags that help me deal with my situation. So that first time, I was totally convinced that I wasn't important at all, that no one would miss me. And I decided to hang myself. So I went to my room. There was a beam on the ceiling, metal beam, like a very strong one. And I didn't have a rope because for some reason I really don't understand why this is the reason, but hanging myself is my way. It's the way I've chosen as a suicidal. So I decided to hang myself in that beam. I didn't have a rope at that time, and what I did was just I removed the strap from one of my bags. I don't know if you've seen these sausage bags. They have like a strap that you just put over your shoulder. That strap was long enough. And I thought, because the material is really strong, I thought it was going to hold me. So I just tied that up to the beam, made sure that the knot that I was making was enough just to hold my weight. And I hang on it with both of my hands, totally convinced and committed to be successful in what I was doing. And then I made the knot around my neck, which was where I think I'm gonna call it, in some romantic way, the miracle happened. Very naively, I thought that the little buckle that they have was strong enough to hold the weight of my body. By that time, I wasn't as big as I am now. I was struggling with eating disorders as well, and I was really, really skinny. And of course, the eating disorder just it fired back after I just turned a certain age, and now I'm holding more weight than normal. So anyway, I wrapped the strap around my neck and stepped on a stool high enough just to hold me, and then I just kicked the stool. After I kicked the stool, I don't remember what happened. All I remember is I woke up on the floor, and my neck hurt a lot. I went out of my room probably 5 minutes after waking up, and I saw everyone having like a normal life. Like nobody noticed, nobody did anything, nobody would have known what I did, which for me was kind of perfect at the time. And by that time, I didn't reach out for help. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. I didn't know it was a bad thing. I was totally convinced that the world would be better without me in it. And I just moved on from that little episode. When I went back to face my room, which was the scene where everything was happening, everything sunk in me, and I realized that I didn't know if I was dead or alive. I really didn't know for a second if what I was just experiencing, because everything was just so normal around me. I didn't know if I really was, it was me, or it was just my spirit lost whatever thought of everything. It took me like probably half an hour to realize that, yep, you're alive, you didn't succeed. I went to the room and I saw the strap still hanging on the beam, and the little plastic buckle that I used just to tighten the strap around my neck was broken. It was broken. It didn't hold my weight, and that's the first. That's the first of the 3 times that I attempted. As you can see, the context is just very emotional. The second time that I attempted suicide was when I came here to Australia. I've been in therapy since I was 19 years old. After my dad wasn't available, I thought like, yep, therapy would be a good thing. But the first therapist I had, we didn't click, we didn't connect. he was more of a professional helper, trying to do everything in a scientific way rather than trying to connect to me as a patient. So because of that distance in emotions that we had, we couldn't connect. We couldn't manage to hit the spot of the depression that I was just living. The only diagnosis that I've ever had was that I've had situational depression. My depression is triggered depending on the situations that I'm living at the moment. And if there's something that I remember since I was a little kid, is that I've been surrounded by some sort of gray cloud that just strikes bad luck into the things that I'm trying to attempt, which today I'm grateful for. Like, after being through all my therapy and everything, I'm grateful for that gray cloud, only because I can see that made me better somehow. Don't know how, it just made me better. Going back to my story, it's the second time that I attempted to commit suicide with here in Australia. We were struggling to get a legal placement here, with the visa and all the process that we have to do. We had a year and a half here in Australia. There is massive amount of issues just back in Venezuela, the country I'm from. And all those issues have been there like for more than 20 years. All those political issues, the turmoil, everything that they live over there affected my migration process so bad that it just made me think somehow my wife and my daughter would be better. They would get more help or something like that if I wasn't with them. For some reason in my head, there is this image of, because I grew up with my mom as a single mother, well, separated, but there is this image in my head that says that society helps more single women than a marriage couple with a kid. I don't know why, like, that's just a stereotype. It's something that it's been happening. Of course, yeah, it's true. Single mothers struggle a lot, but married couples struggle a lot too. So anyway, I was struggling and I had that on the back of my head. I was working overnight. I was working from 12 to 4 a.m. cleaning toilets in a shopping center north. And I didn't have much time to sleep because I was cleaning toilets during the night and going to university during the day. And in the little time that I had to look after my daughter that was 6 years old. So, I remember that my sleep was very affected by that time. So the levels of serotonin that I had were really, really low. And I ended up feeling really, really dark at some point, really bad. I ended up struggling to get out of bed, struggling to do normal activities. My energy levels were so low. And then this time the attempt was considering the help that my wife were gonna get, and also as some sort of exit, some sort of happy ending for my dark episodes. Some sort of like the peaceful rest in peace for the rest of your life that some people just, dream to. Like when you're depressed and you're struggling every day, you dream with that rest in peace. So I just attempted the same way. This time I did have a rope, but I didn't have a beam on the ceiling. So I needed something strong because I didn't have much energy. I thought, you really don't need to be on top of something. So I decided to go to that little pipe that is inside of the closet and try just to let my way hold against the rope, sitting I was exhausted. So being as exhausted as I was, it wasn't very difficult just to sit and just wait for everything. So that's what I did. It didn't work either. I passed out, and I really don't understand how my head was out of the rope. Really don't understand how I just ended up in front of the closet. I woke up because my phone started to ring, and it was a friend of mine who lived by, and he wanted to come to my place to drop some donuts. He was working as well as a cleaner, and he said, like, I got some donuts, I wanted to drop them by your place for you to share with your daughter and your wife. The daughter and the wife, of course, weren't at home by that time. I was just by myself, I was just alone. And when I just answered the phone, I started crying. When he realized I was crying, he said, like, please open the door, open the door, open the door. When he saw me, I had like this massive red mark just below my neck, and my eyes were just swollen as nothing. My mouth was really dry, just like it is now. Sorry. He didn't know either what to do. This friend of mine didn't know how to deal with these type of situations, so he asked me what to do. In my cloud, all I told him was like, can you take me to the emergency room? He didn't even think of giving me an answer. He just put me in his car and just took me to the emergency room. And called my wife, of course. When he called my wife, my wife had already arrived home, and she was really worried because all she found was on my desk was the goodbye note. She was really worried. She said, like, what's happening? Because of course, in the confusion and everything that was happening, I just forgot. I was ready. I set everything up just to say goodbye to everyone, and she found the note. And when this friend of mine called her, she just broke into tears and said, like, what's happening? What's happening? Where is he? Where is he? And then he said, yeah, we're in the emergency room. He's okay. Just wanted to know he's okay. The doctors are looking after him. I was so confused at that time. I was so confused because the first time that I attempted, nothing happened. Like, no one knew. And this was the second time, and there was people making a big fuss around me. And of course, I felt bad. I felt guilty. I felt there's no need to do all this, all right? Just, I'm okay. I'm okay. And that's the first time that I heard a doctor say to me in a very empathetic way, Carlos, you're not okay. Okay, people don't do this. And I want you to know that I'm really, really glad of whatever happened didn't happen. And I said, that's when I realized for the first time that I did it again. I attempted to commit suicide, and it didn't happen again. And this time I felt bad, and I was blaming myself, saying, you're so worthless, you're so bad at everything that you can't even kill yourself. Those words just repeated in me for a very long time. There was a third time after that one, with all the help, with everything that was happening around me, I still felt like the world was not a place for me. I felt like, no. most of the issues that we were having here in Australia were legal issues. No one was kicking us out, but it was in my head. It was inside of me. I needed to be out of the picture for my wife and my daughter just to get the goal and being accepted. Distorted, like this is totally a distortion of the reality that was happening in my brain. But I believed it. I was convinced that they definitely would do better work without me. So, of course, hanging myself was a very awful, after considering everything, going through the process of recapping or reviving everything, remembering everything that happened. You see the flaws. And I said, now, hanging yourself is just going to be too awful. Then I changed it and I said, no, you gotta poison yourself. So I was struggling to sleep again. The legal situation hasn't changed to this point. This is a year after that one. Legal situation hasn't changed. We were living at a friend's house because we couldn't afford to pay for our own place. So living at this friend's house didn't help my situation of not feeling like a burden. I felt like a burden more than anything. One day I just couldn't get out of bed and I had to stay in the place. And I felt really bad. I felt really bad because everyone was just out working, doing their best, and I just couldn't. So I decided to go for a walk and I took every single medicines that they just gave me, to thinking of trying to commit, just do it. Yes. I went to a really secluded place. I sat under a tree like 2 in the afternoon, summer day. Sat under the tree thinking with 2 big bunches of pills on my hands without knowing what the pills were gonna do to me. But I had some diazepam, which is a really strong sedative. And I knew that I was gonna be sleeping if everything happened or anything happened. So the diazepam was my like no paying card. So I took all the pills that I had, all of them mixed together. There was even paracetamol and even very silly things like I just wanted to poison myself. And after I took them, I swallowed them. I took a handful of diazepam. I don't remember much after that. I know that I woke up and it was really late at night, really late. And I woke up. Everything was blurred. I could feel my brain very numb because of the pills. And same situation as the first time that I had tried to commit suicide. I didn't know where I was. I was confused. I walked home. When I got home, in my confusion, I tried to identify myself. Like I wanted to see if I was dead or alive. And I didn't see body, I didn't see anything. I felt like, yep, you're still alive. So fussy as I was, walked to the close by highway that was around. And I say, if that didn't work, this will work. Someone spotted me and when they saw me, I saw that they saw me. I got scared, and I went back home. And when I got home, not putting any blames on anyone. Of course, my friends felt that I was being very ungrateful for being received in their place, and I clearly heard the owner of the house saying to my wife, "You and your daughter are very welcome in my place, but he is not." And I had to leave my wife and my daughter for around 15 days, and went to live with other friends' house in other people's place, just working with my wife to try and find a place for the three of us to live. Didn't take long. 15 days after that, my wife went to the church. In the church, she found a very nice lady that she had spare rooms in her place, and she just opened her house for the three of us. Of course, I was still very unstable at this point, but I wanted to be with my wife and with my daughter. And this night, before everything happened, I told my wife what I did, and I ended up in the hospital with my stomach being pumped. I didn't know what they were doing to me. They knew what they were doing, and they knew my medical history with depression. I went to mental health facilities to stay for a couple of days as well. When I stayed in there, I was completely isolated from everything and everyone. The only one that was allowed to go in was my wife. And of course, because of everything that I've done, like just coming out of the hospital was just to the mental facility. They gave me a lot of medication in there just to try and, because what the diagnosis was, like my brain was very swollen at the time that I just swallowed the pills. So they were just trying to de-inflammate just my brain, just trying to bring it back to the normal size, to a normal thing. And my head felt really heavy at that point. A lot of people talked to me and they said, like, you just have to snap out of it. You just have to snap out of it. You heard that a lot. You're a strong man. You can deal with this. Exercise yourself. That'll keep your mind out of everything. And for me, nothing worked. It was just like the constant thinking that I was a burden in everyone's life. Not just my wife, but my mom, my dad, and everyone. Happily, I would say, happily for me and my wife, got out of the place. We found the place. We moved. Shortly after that, a friend of mine just gave me an opportunity to work assembling some machinery somewhere. And the fact that I was assembling something, it was like working with puzzles for me. It was distracting. It was very distracting. And because of the amount of focus that I was putting into the being distracted, my productivity was off the charts. So that led to another opportunity inside of the same company, and then another one, and then another one, to a point that I just recovered my self-confidence in my abilities, still knowing that this was just in the back of my head, just running around it. When the company went out of business, they just didn't need me anymore. After that, everything started to pick up. And then, because what was triggering my depression and what was triggering my suicidal episodes was our legal situation in Australia, my wife took over. And she said, "You're not allowed to worry about this. I'm gonna worry about this. The main thing or the main issue, I'm just gonna try and give some context on why the legal situation was not very favorable for me. I'm an accountant. Graduated in 2007 with over 10, close to 10 years of experience from my country. Okay. My experience wasn't good here in Australia because of the different laws, different regulations. So I had to come to Australia, being an accountant with no experience. But if my English was good enough, I could land a job and be on the right track to being an accountant here in Australia. To do that, I needed to pass I would say it's not a very difficult, but all the pressure was on an exam, an English exam. IELTS, it's the name of this English exam. That was what the Department of Migration in Australia requires people just to take, just to evaluate the level of English that they speak. There's 4 modules: speaking, listening, writing, and reading. Different test is 1 test for each module. So I was doing okay with 3 of those 4. The only one that I couldn't do well was with the reading. For some reason, my reading wasn't up to the task. I'm a slow reader. I've always been. And in this English exam, you have a time frame. So if you're a slow reader, you're under the average. You're going to do well. If I had probably 10 minutes or 20 more minutes just to read everything else, I'm 100% sure I could achieve what I needed. But because the time frame was just so short for me, I couldn't achieve the 4th model that I needed just to get my English to the right level for the migration purposes. So I undertook this exam 13 times. Every single time you take that exam is $300. So within this year and a half that was happening, I took the exam 7 times. I had no stable job, and I was just using $300 every single time that I wanted to achieve, because I needed to pass the exam in the 4 modules just to continue with the migration process. It never happened. It never happened until one day after my wife took over. A friend of mine just came to me and she said, like, Carlos, I know that the money is a very important issue in taking your exam. I want to take that pressure off you. I'm going to pay for your next exam, and I want you to take that exam. And I said, like, it's not necessary. My wife took over. We no longer need me to take the exam. That was the 13th time that I took the exam, when this person came to me and said that I didn't even prepare for the exam. I didn't even do anything. And I went to take the exam and I passed it. But it was no longer required. It was no longer needed for my process. It helped us. It helped us gain a little bit more time, but still was no longer. I don't know if you have any knowledge about how the migration points work. Well, they have points. They give you points for experience, for the career, for your English level. And by the time that I started, I managed to pass the exam, I started losing points in experience because my experience of the past 10 years was no longer the same, was different. So I passed the exam, and even passing the exam was not enough for me to get the minimum points that I needed just to apply for the visa that we needed. I felt horrible. For me, it was not an achievement. For me, it felt like you're a piece of garbage. How could you not pass this exam before in all those opportunities that you had? Nothing was excusing me inside of me. Like I was being too harsh to myself inside of my head. And that was one of the I would call it like the judgments that would say, yep, you definitely deserve to die, in my head. That's what happens in my head. It's like a constant judgment of myself telling me, if you do mistakes or if you make mistakes, you are guilty and you need to be punished. You need to die. That's the way it happens in my head. So a couple of years after, none of my attempts worked. But then I just found a way of dealing with everything that was happening inside of my head. With my wife taking off the pressure of the legal situation that we had, I could focus on just two things, very small ones. Everyday life, you need to find a job and keep it. And you need to focus on the red flags that happen on your head. Whenever there's a red flag, just do something. Of course, I've been in therapy ever since, and that's something that I don't think I'm gonna quit. I've been under medication as well. I have to take my medications every single day. And sometimes I forget because that's one of the things that I am. I'm very forgettable. And every single day I have to go through my process of evaluating everything, how it's inside of my head. And the other thing that I like to do, this is just like putting my extra effort, is coming and sitting to my wife and talking to her about what's happening inside of me. Even though she doesn't want to listen sometimes, because for her, whatever happens inside of my head, it's like, yeah, we all go through problems. It's just the way that I see the problems that is disordered, like that's distorted. It's the way that I have faced it. And she gets bored sometimes. She gets like, oh, again, you with this. But the fact that I go to therapy and I speak to my wife helps me identify my red flags, helps me. Which has been my strategy ever since for the past 3 years. It's been working really, really well. Even though I've been close to considering, again, committing suicide, I can identify the red flags before making an official attempt.
Were you scared before the attempt?
No. I was scared after I failed. That's a very personal position towards suicide. I'm actually not scared of dying. Actually, if you ask me, and this is probably some sort of weird vision or some sort of weird way of seeing a very important issue. For me, dying is not a penalty. Dying is not it's not a punishment. Dying is a reward that you have to earn after living a life. That's the way I see it. And that's the way I've seen it for a very long time. In fact, every time that I committed suicide, I felt like I'm such a good person. I don't deserve to be living this. Bam.
Did you seek help before the attempts?
I did. I did reach out. Did reach out to some of my relatives. Still, before making the whole plan and the way that it was going to work on everything that I wanted to do, all the details that I needed to do, I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to tell them what was happening to me, but my focus, like my personal focus, wasn't on what was happening in my brain. It was on what the situation that was causing my depression, which I understood later in life that the focus should have been in the mental health, the way of seeing the situation, instead of focusing on the situation. Because that's exactly where I feel now that if I can, the best example that I can give you is, or this would be the most palpable for me. It's the most palpable for me now. If a person that is suffering from some sort of vision disability, I would say short-sighted or anything that is really common nowadays, they get glasses, they put them on, they see properly. If the glasses get scratched or something, their vision's gonna be distorted as well. So they need to replace the glasses or work on the glasses better. That was my problem, but my problem wasn't my eyesight. My problem was inside of my brain, and I wasn't wearing glasses to see the situations, but still there was fog in my brain. There was something that didn't help me see the situation the right way. So I was seeking for help, but not to fix the eyes, but to fix the environment I was seeing instead of fixing the eyes. So the solution would have been easy as putting some glasses on. I didn't know that. I was just trying to tell people. It's like if a short-sighted person would come to you and tell you, can you make the letters bigger instead of just getting the glasses? Oh, not just make everything bigger. Let's just make the whole world bigger for everyone to see bigger letters. And of course, that fixes my problem as well. But that is a very, very unreachable solution. That's exactly the help that I was seeking for by that time when I was just trying to attend to it.
What systems do you currently use to manage your mental health?
I have plenty. The first one, of course, going to therapy. Therapy for me is like my glasses. Therapy, of course, therapy is going to the optometrist actually. You don't go to the optometrist every day. You go every certain time, depending on the severity of your vision. Well, depending on the severity of my depression, I go to the therapist. When I was in my darkest places, I used to go to the therapist 4 times a month or every week. Therapists, same as optometrists, would suggest use glasses. They suggested use the medicine. So I'm wearing my glasses in depression. So my glasses are my medicine. Okay, the medicine helps my brain balance the chemicals that they're not really well inside. So still, glasses are not just what you need. This is more complex than that. Depression is a little bit more complex. So I'm taking my medicines and I'm going to therapy and working on some psychological ways of seeing everything and identifying my situation. Because my depression is situational, is it gets triggered depending on the situation. I need to be evaluating everything that is happening in my life to see the red flags. Okay, depending on the situation that I'm living, I have lower or higher levels of depression. So the most important are those two. Regular day lives, activities that I do is I got a dog, which is a friendly reminder of not being alone every single day. There's nothing better. I would say a pet. Okay, the level of dependency that the pet having human beings helps you understand how important you are for a living being. So the pet helps a lot. Going for a walks, amazing. It helps a lot. It just boosts my level of endorphins and gives me the energy that I need to deal with everyday activities, just like getting out of bed, which is one of the most difficult. When I go to sleep, my brain goes into some sort of alpha state, which lets it leads to me being totally drained of energy depending on the activity that I've done, everything. If I don't walk, I'm not going to have the endorphin that I need just to get out of that alpha level. I'm just going to be stuck in my sleep, in the tiredness, in even though I've slept my normal 7 to 8 hours that you normally need, I'm still going to feel tired when I open my eyes, and I'm going to be. So I need to continuously have a little bit of exercise through the day. It can't be work, okay? What I mean with this is like if I have work that requires a lot of physical or is physically demanding, it doesn't count as exercise. It's work. And no matter what you're feeling, you have to do it. Exercise is more of a leisure activity. It's trying to find pleasure in some sort of sporting thing. It doesn't have to be for a purpose. It has to be for yourself. Like going for a walk or walking the dog or whatever physical activity that helps you just release that endorphins that you need. I do that. And speaking to people openly. I'm not embarrassed at all of what I've lived. Today, I'm actually kind of relieved that nothing in the past worked, that nothing happened. And I look forward to watching my little girl just grow up. I look forward to seeing my wife happy and accomplished. I look forward to being useful to society, not just in a way of just paying my taxes, useful to society in a way that you can help in important issues like clearing the stigma around depression. Depression is as serious as any other illness that anyone can just have. The stigma is still out there. There are still a lot of people with a lot of power. Problem with the stigma comes from power. If a person in power or a person with influence speaks with stigma about the depression, the influence is going to be passed down to the people that follows these people. All right. If you have your stigmas and you keep them to yourself, nothing's going to happen. There's no problem, no judgment at all. But if the stigma gets passed down to other people, it spreads, and that's when you find the barrier to the problem, to the real problem. And of course, it's not going to be just that person in power. It's going to be thousands of followers of this person judging people with depression, which doesn't help at all.
Do people treat you differently now?
Some do, and yes, they do. Everyone, okay? After going through all this and after opening about your situation, you have two type of people in your life. Ones you keep and ones you don't. And most of the people that I didn't find that were right for me are not with me. They're not close. And yes, the other people that stay, they treat me differently. They understood what I was going through, and they understand what I'm doing right now to overcome all this, and they respect me more after the understanding. I really don't know what the other people that is not with me think of me, and I don't like to think about that because it's not helpful.
So you feel understood by the people around you now?
Yes, I do. The most important people in my life right now is my daughter. One of the consequences of everything that I've lived, the most regrettable one, is that this is an illness that can be passed down. It can be inherited by your descendants. My daughter is 13 years old now, and she is struggling right now. Best part is she has a dad with a lot of experience. And that's one of the things I look forward to. I look forward to helping her in every single way and teaching her that even though sometimes it gets a little bit cloudy inside of us, it is possible to see that light of beam just coming down from the cloud and making us smile a little bit. I'm sorry. As this is an illness that can be passed down, I do look forward to helping, or not helping, but serving as an example to a lot of people that struggle with this at a very young age. Numbers in Australia, I didn't bring any numbers or anything just to share with you, but I've seen them, and numbers in Australia of young people committing and succeeding in suiciding are really high. And if there's something I can tell to someone at a very young age, is to hang in there, is to be strong for a second. They don't know how strong they are. You just need to hang in there. I'm pretty sure it's going to get better. The other thing I really believe, is that a lot of people in the world think that talking about suicide helps promote suicide. It would be like talking about sexual transmitted diseases would promote sexual transmitted diseases. We need to be more open about talking about suicide, because the more you talk about that, the more it helps people understand what's happening behind curtains, behind closed doors. Because most of the time, the people that really face suicide as an option, they don't think of it in front of everyone. They think of it in places like the toilet, when you're just by yourself, making your business that is no one else's business. This is just a very intimate process. It's something that you don't share with anyone. And just because of that, and of course the fact that it doesn't involve a second person, makes it even easy to overlook. Very easy to overlook. But I am a firm believer that talking about suicide openly is one of the best ways of preventing it. Men get judged twice as much as women for being depressed, because for some reason around the world, men they have to be strong when facing emotions. And we're human beings. Like, we've been talking about equality and gender equality for so long. Let's just remove the pain of being a man in depression and talking about this, and just remove the stereotype of thinking that men have to be tough to face their emotions or anything that are happening. Because what depression really made me feel, or what depression really meant for me, was just that glass that I needed, the glasses that I needed to see what was happening. Because I was seeing the world with the wrong eyes. That's what it was. So let's get the help that we need.
Were there any warning signs that you were contemplating suicide that other people may have noticed?
Good one. And for this one, I'm going to answer to you with a very important case of depression that for me has been the one that pinpoint depression in my head. I don't know if you know who Robin Williams is. Robin Williams, very successful man, happy as no one else. Everywhere he went, he had a smile on his face, and he made people laugh a lot. He was a master of hiding his depression. Yes, I myself became very good at hiding my emotions, especially when laughing. People would not feel the cramps that I get in my face for laughing so hard against everything that I wanted to. It's something that just builds up just around here for forcing the smiles on my face. They look natural, but they hurt. It's like something unnatural happening in your face. I don't know how to explain that one, because it's really hard to think of an unnatural laugh that looks natural. But that's what happened to me. I got so good that people would not notice when I was sad, when I was just down. And I learned to read people as well. The more relaxed I see them around me, the easier it was for me to hide whatever I was feeling. And when I saw if I feel a little bit of a tension, or a little bit of, if there was a tension in the room with the people I was just sharing with, or if I could feel that they were just trying to pay attention to something that I'm feeling, what I would do is just bring the mood down with some jokes and minimize to the lowest point whatever I was feeling. I would say things like, oh, it doesn't matter. I can just solve that really quickly. And don't worry about it. It's nothing. Those are words that just I used my whole life. And it was a way of trying to keep people from feeling that I wanted to burden them with my emotions, which works really well. Like, I gotta tell you, I can see, or I can that's another thing, because I'm good at it, and I identify that really good in me. I can see it in other people too. And sometimes when I spot someone doing this, it's very easy for me, very easy to try and pinpoint the very hard things that they're going through and speak about that openly. It's just as easy as just taking the mask off and saying, hey, I'm happening through this. Like, I'm going through this. I'm going through depression. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And I'm still here. When they see that, it's like you're coming with a wrecking ball to break the wall. Bam. You break the wall, and people straight away come to you and say, it is possible. Yeah. You have no idea how good it feels when someone breaks your wall. when someone penetrates that wall that you've built, that's so well built, because it's brick after brick after brick, and then another one, and then another one. And if someone just breaks it, you feel relieved. You feel, yeah, there's hope. There really is hope. Because as a depressed person, you don't want people to see that. You don't want people to see what's happening behind walls. So breaking the walls, good thing to do.
What would you say to others contemplating suicide?
I'm gonna take the liberty in this point, because this is something that I really wanted to do. Whoever is contemplating suicide right now, I can't tell them not to do it. As a person that I've tried that, I can't tell them to stop whatever they're thinking. The only thing that I can tell them is that I understand them clearly, that I understand what they're going through, that I understand how it feels. And that even though in that position I know that they don't see hope, there is plenty. There is plenty of hope. And it sounds very romantic, I know. It sounds a bit cheesy to say that, because the concept of hope changes when you have depression. Some people hope to overcome poverty. Some people hope to find love. Some people hope just to be successful in whatever career they're doing. We, as a group, and I'm going to speak about myself, I'm not going to speak as a group. Me, as a depressed person, the only hope I wanted to have, or the only hope I have, is to have a normal life, to have being able to get out of bed, take a shower, to go to work, to have friends. That hope is out there for those people who are contemplating it right now. There is hope to have a normal life.
What are some things that helped you move forward with your life?
Friends, real friends, real people help a lot. I have plenty of them. I have plenty of people that they've influenced my life in a good way. Keeping myself busy is something that helps every single day. And when I say keeping myself busy, I'm not only talking about work. I'm also talking about hobbies, which was something that I've never had in my life prior to coming to Australia. Hobbies are one of the best things that you can just experience, like one of the best things. Whatever you enjoy in life, whatever it is, apologies for that. Whatever it is that you enjoy in life, do it. Just spend time doing what you like to do. That's it. That's my way of thinking. For instance, for me, video games work really well. I'm an old person. I'm a mature person. I'm gonna say 39 years old, and I love playing video games. Not one specific type of video games. I enjoy the new video games that they come out these days. And also I enjoy retro video gaming, because it just connects me really well to my child. My inner child is like, yep, remember when we were just playing these back in the day? And I was like, yeah. So yeah, playing video games helped me a lot. And those are the helps, the really good things. treating myself to stuff that I enjoy.
What do you think needs to change in society for suicide to be prevented?
Yeah, that's a very hard one. As I said before, there's plenty of barriers, plenty of stigma around suicide. I can see people talking about STDs more openly than about suicide. And I'm pretty sure if we talk about suicide, I would say like 70% of what we talk about STDs, or 80% as much as we talk about STDs, the numbers will come down quickly. The curve that they wanted to flatten, blah, blah, suicide curve would just come down really, really significantly if we are more open to talk about suicide instead of just trying to avoid the hard talk. Because let's be honest, it's part of life. It's part of life. I haven't known a single person. I'm not going to say that they're depressed. I'm going to say that I haven't known a single person in my life that they haven't contemplated at some point suicide as an option. It's something that it's out there. It's something that everyone thinks of. So why not talk about that openly? There is one thing that not many people consider, okay? And that leads to a lot of people misunderstanding the fact of, apologies, of going to a psychologist or going to a therapist. The fact that there is no connection between the therapist and the patient, it plays a very important role in mental health. This is a two-way street, okay? This is something that, of course, always, all the time, the mental health professional is putting 100% of their effort into helping the patient. But sometimes that professional is probably not the right fit for the patient. It's some sort of type of glasses metaphor, probably. So we have to pay attention to that, to the connection between the mental health professional and the patient. We have to put a lot of attention in that very specific point, because that connection, as I tell you, this mental health is a very intimate process everyone lives. So when you go to therapy, you want to be understood, you want to be listened, you want to be helped. Because if you're going to therapy, of course, you're just reaching out. It's a way of reaching out. And sometimes we forget that mental health professionals are also human beings, that they have all the backgrounds and stuff. So the importance of being connected to your mental health professional is definitely something that we overlook. We think that if we go to a mental health professional, we don't feel good with that mental health professional. At some point, we say every mental health professional doesn't work, or it doesn't work because I went there and it didn't work for me. No, like, we have to find the right person. We have to find, and sometimes it's not even the right person, it's the right place to go and talk openly about what we feel, what we need. And when we put the importance on finding that connection with the mental health professional, we are just in a better, way of healing, or a better way of finding a good sense of life, of normal life that we can. But it's definitely something that I don't feel that people talk about. I feel like it's very easy to judge one professional going once and saying, mental health is not for me, it's overlooked, it's like, nah, that doesn't work, so I don't want to go. No, let's just pay a little bit more attention into saying, probably this wasn't the right fit for you, let's just go to some other place. And when you find the right place, oh wow, you feel like you're in a highway just cruising through your depression process. I myself have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've been in the hands of 7 professionals. Grateful for all of them, because I know that they put 100% of their efforts into helping me. Some of them identify themselves as not the right fit for me, but they put me in the right direction, so I went to the other one. And some of them, I found that they weren't the right fit for me, so I just move on from them. And of course, just removing the personal factor, saying this is nothing personal, this is just not the right fit for me. So if there's something that I would like to mention, it's just that connection between the professionals of the mental health and the patient, and the importance that it has on the development of your healing, your own process. Believe it or not, they do learn from us, I would say probably as much as we learn from them. They are professionals, but they still listen. When they're the right fit, they listen, they see progress, and they learn as well. They do. So, and of course, for them, our success is their success. So for the mental health workers.
How do you communicate your experiences with your suicide attempts with your children?
Yes, very important question. I believe that every single human being has different levels of understanding depending on the age. So definitely the way that helped me more was going as easy as if she was 5 years old and trying to explain to her in the most kind words what I was trying to do. I never forget what my real intentions were, which for me, in the back of my head or in my foggy glasses, always thought that it was the best for them. So it's foggy because there's no way that harming yourself, you can do something good for someone else. And the way that I spoke to her about depression is just the same way that we tell any story, just telling her a story that she can understand. And of course, knowing the level of details that she needs to know. She's 13 years old now. She is being told that she's very mature for her age. And if you ask me, the way I've spoken to you, it's imagining that I'm speaking to her. Because God forbid, something happens to me, you don't know, accidents happen. I actually want her to have this conversation that you and I have had, for her to feel some sort of comfort and seeing that her dad did the best that he could do. That's it.
If you or someone you know is thinking about attempting to take their own life, please seek help. I've left a few resources in the description of this video. some websites you can visit with more information, and some phone numbers that you can call if you need to speak to someone. I think it's really important that we have these conversations and listen to their stories, so that we can better understand how people feel when they're isolated and they're at a low point in their life, and what we can do to support them at that time so that we don't lose any more people to suicide, which is sadly the leading cause of death between the ages of 15 and 44, which is an awful statistic. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider subscribing on Patreon. Otherwise, YouTube is great. And if you can be bothered posting it to Reddit somewhere, maybe our videos, that would be a great help as well for the channel. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next video.